This is Nicholas Alexiou from Queen's College and the Hellenic American Project doing this interview on February 8th, 2022 with the owner and a very charismatic personality, Miss DIANNA LOISELLE of TELLY'S Taverna. DIANNA, would like to thank you very much for giving this interview for the Hellenic American Project archives, and we're looking forward to document your history. Let's start with the personal component of the interview, where you were born and where you grew up.
So I was born in Duluth, Minnesota, here in the United States, and I grew up all over the United States. Many different cities, states, some states twice. You know, some cities we would go, we would leave. We would move around while my mother was looking for work. She came here from Greece, limited English, and she didn't come to New York. My father was in the Air Force, so her beginnings were moving to where he was stationed, and then after they divorced, she was just searching for work. So we would move very often.
And usually in the different cities you moved, you lived around or within a Greek American community?
No, not so much. I can't say that we never did, but we didn't live in communities like Astoria or communities where Greek people were everywhere around. So because a few of the cities that we lived in, she worked at a Greek place, then we had a Greek society around us, you know, her friends, or there weren't communities like this.
Then please tell us, because of the record discussion we had, your Greek are perfect. How come and you maintain the Greek language so well while you grew up in an environment not necessarily Greek environment?
So I actually didn't really speak Greek when I was little because my mother was concentrating on learning English. So she didn't really speak Greek to us. So, but she did listen to Greek music. So many times I knew all of the words to a whole song without knowing what a word was. So I could still tell you, like, the songs that I listened to as a child, all of the words, and I remember that I didn't know what the words meant when I was singing them. So I didn't have to learn Greek because, like I said before, we weren't in a Greek community. I didn't learn Greek as a language to communicate until we moved to Astoria. I knew some words, I knew songs, I knew things, but until we moved to Astoria, I never spoke to people in Greek. Even if I understood something that they were saying, I would always answer in English because I didn't speak Greek.
So, except the language, the environment at home was basically Greek. The music, the food,
yeah.
the news from Greece.
There weren't Greek channels where we lived. I never saw Greek TV where we lived. I mean, until we came here. I don't know though that there were any Greek channels in these. No, right? No, there weren't.
But we didn't have the.
Mm-hmm. So, and your friends while growing up were Greeks?
No Greek. No, I
Americans.
didn't. Yes. So even if I knew some Greek people, I knew them because they either worked with my mother or things like that. I never knew children that were Greek. No.
So basically, your secondary environment outside home was basically American.
Completely.
And of different backgrounds, Midwest,
Yeah.
South,
South.
West Coast.
I could go through a list of states where we lived, and it might not seem like so many, but because even within that state, we would move. Like, we lived in California, no, Minnesota, California, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Seattle, back, back to Nevada, back to Phoenix, back to Texas. So many, Arizona,
But your friends at that early stages, they knew that you were Greek, or they perceived you as an American?
No, everybody knew that I was Greek, because all of my friends, because if they knew my mother's English. We lived in areas where there weren't immigrants, there weren't foreigners. So anybody who was a foreigner always stuck out. Like,
Did you experience any kind of discrimination?
Oh, no.
or
No, I can't say that I did. And even if I did, I wouldn't have known it. Because, I don't know, when I was growing up, there weren't things that made you feel different like that, I think. I don't know. I think that wasn't something that was happening then.
And as a child, you had opportunities to visit Greece?
No. So my mother came here and didn't go back to Greece for over 20 years. My grandmother and my grandfather came to visit us once, when I was little once, and then they came another time when I was older. But we didn't even really call Greece, because that wasn't even something possible then. I remember when my mother first started calling Greece, I want to say it was like $3 or $4 a minute to make a phone call to Greece. So we didn't really have contact with Greece. I didn't know any of my family or anything like that.
And how do you identify yourself as far as concerned ethnic identity?
I'm Greek. My father's not Greek, and I am so Greek. I even think in Greek. Like, if I'm, how you think to yourself and you talk to yourself in your brain to say something, it's in Greek, which is so amazing. It's so crazy that my whole entire life I didn't speak Greek up until I was like 17. And then now I think in Greek. Like, when I go to speak to somebody in English sometimes, and I'm like, it's just crazy.
Well, this is very interesting for the second generation you have a very exceptional multi and cultural and diverse background with the various cities and cultures, and still keeping the ethnic identities. This is
both of my children's first language was Greek. I didn't speak to them in English until they went to school either.
The third generation, you transfer that, transmitting.
To try.
It is important for you that your children.
Absolutely. There are so many things that you cannot say in English. I feel very. I don't know how people cannot speak a different language. I mean, the English is an amazing language, and that's why it's the most spoken around the world. It's an easier language than Greek, for sure. But there are so many things that you can say in Greek that you could not say in English. There are words that you can say in Greek that are a complete sentence in English with one word.
This is interesting because today, all this week is dedicated, is the International Greek Language Day and week, and it's very interesting that you say that. The importance of the Greek language and the continuity of Greek language in America. How came the decision to come to New York and Astoria?
So again, my mother was looking for work. We were living in Houston, Texas, and again, she was looking for work. And a couple of friends of hers, she would visit New York. I hadn't been here yet. She would visit New York with a couple of friends of hers. They would come to New York often. She came up with them once, well, like almost the second to the last time she came up, and she decided that this is where she was going to find work. So I stayed behind. I stayed and lived with a friend of mine. That we went to school together. I stayed with her family, and my mother moved here. And then that was in the spring. And then by December, I want to say, Christmas time, I came here. Δεν είχα σκοπό να έρθω. Όταν έφυγε, όχι, δεν είχα σκοπό να έρθω, γιατί ήθελα να συνεχίσω ότι ήμουνα 14 χρονών. Δεν, καθόλου. So
you're in Houston, and Nana is coming to New York, looking for work.
Yeah.
And after a few months.
Well, no, it was about a year later.
A
year later. So that was in the spring. I came to visit in December. She was living with some friends. And then I went back to Texas. And then I drove. In Texas, you got your driver's license when you're 14 years old. So I drove from there to here. And then she rented an apartment here on 36th Street. And then I moved here. We moved into that apartment together. And I want to say about a month later or a couple months later, again, we moved to another place. Like even while we were here in the beginning, we were still moving. And then we moved to a place so we didn't have trains or anything like that in Houston. And then we moved into an apartment under the train. And I remember the first days I was like, this is going to be impossible. How are we going to live like this? Because when you come from a place like Houston, even like the least expensive, say, 2-bedroom apartment then was like 2,000 square feet, 1,000 square feet. It wasn't anything like living here. When I got here and all of the buildings were next to each other and all close together, I was like, there's no way I could live here. Aside from that, everything like the storefronts, even this restaurant, it wasn't, I mean, not this restaurant, but the restaurants that were here, the pharmacy, the cleaners, everything was written in Greek. Not English at all. It didn't say like TELLY'S Taverna in Greek and then TELLY'S Taverna in English, just Greek. And I didn't speak Greek. And I definitely didn't read Greek. So I started school, and all of a sudden I knew so many Greek people that were my age, and I felt like I was part of, wow, I'm Greek. And I started feeling so proud to be Greek that I was, part of this nationality. I don't know how to explain it. It didn't feel like that though, but it was great. So
you're discovering the Astoria and the Greek community. So what Astoria means to you?
Oh gosh, I can't put that in words. What does it mean to me? I feel like everybody who moved away or who left took something with them that they could never get back. I feel like no matter where you leave to from Astoria, you're always back in Astoria. So I mean, the Greek community, a lot of people have moved elsewhere, but they still come back to Astoria to shop, to eat, to go out, to, visit older family members or other family members. They go to church here. They're still tied to Astoria. When I first started working at Omonia, I was like 14 years old. A friend of mine from school took me there. It was his uncle's cafe. So I started working there, and again, like I said, my Greek wasn't great, to say the least. Coworkers, boss, customers, nobody spoke English. If they had to tell me something, they spoke English like that, but nobody was speaking English to each other. So it was so much easier for me to speak Greek, because now, like, they were having a conversation, and I would, out of the symphrasomena, how do you say symphrasomena in English? Out of the other words in a sentence, I would figure out what they're saying. Like, I would be able to connect what they're saying. And those things, and then I would hear a word, and then I would hear it in a song, and I would be able to figure out what it meant. And then, you know, we started going to Greece more often because it was so much easier to go there from New York. And then I would go to Greece, and my cousins would want to speak English to me because, you know, they were learning English. And I'm sure that I spoke Greek subconsciously because I learned so much Greek that first summer that I was in Greece. I didn't want to leave to go to Greece. I didn't want to go. My mother, we had like 12 suitcases, and we were here in the airport, and I'm like holding on to a column, like, don't take me there. I don't want to go there.
Because you want to bring gifts to your friends?
No, I was afraid to go to
Greece. The valises.
Oh, yeah. No, the suitcases, family
and friends.
We were taking, like, I don't know, everything to Greece, because Greece was a very different place. But that's why I didn't want to go to Greece, because I was like, we're going to a third world country, you know, they don't have TV there, they don't have any. I want to tell you, I didn't want to come back. That first summer, when we went to Greece, leaving here I was crying to leave here, but I was crying even more when I had to come back.
How your relatives and friends perceive you? As an American, as a Greek American, as a Greek?
I think as a Greek. I don't even think so. A lot of times, or a customer will come, and, you know, English is my first language. They're always telling, like, gosh, I can't even believe how you can speak like that. Because in their mind, we're Greek. You know, we're not American in their mind. But I'm American. But I'm Greek. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody says to me, in America, where are you from? I say Greece. I'm not from Greece. But if I'm in Greece, and somebody says, where are you from? I say America. It's so crazy. Like, where am I from? I'm from America, but I'm so Greek.
Very interesting. Now you are a very successful businesswoman, and along with your mother, Nana, not only the community loves you, but also recognize what you have done. You ever thought, though, to repatriate, go back to Greece and live there at some point? Or America is a place that you see the future for your children?
That's the hardest. That's the hardest thing, and I think that everybody says that it's hard for anybody who is part of two different countries. I love Greece. I would live there, you know, tomorrow, if it were easy to, but it's not. It's not only my children that are here. It's that although I'm Greek and I think in Greek and all of these things, and I read, I can't say that I write perfect, but I could write. I don't think that I could work in Greece, and I don't think that it would be possible for me. Maybe it would have been different if I were 20 years old and that's where I started, but I can't even go to Florida. You know what I mean? The way my life is, I can't detach from it. My life is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's part of this. You know, I have a million other things to do aside from this, but I could not detach from this, unfortunately.
But you keep up with the news from Greece and what's happening.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Economic crisis, then the pandemic. So you're aware of what's going on.
Yes.
How you get the news from Greece? Is TV? It is,
Most of the time, I don't really watch Greek TV because I don't watch American TV either. So it's mostly digitally, you know, I have DIANNA, you know, I read articles, I listen to the news on my phone, or in the car, I listen to Greek radio. While I'm driving, my car is playing Greek radio.
And what about the Greek American media? Do you follow them? Do you consume them?
I feel bad, but not so much. I mean, maybe if I were home more often, or if I, you know, watched TV, I would, but I really don't. And we don't have TVs here.
But you are aware of what's going on in the community?
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, we also have newspapers, you know. I'm also in such a Greek community that people are talking every day, all day. So, you know, people talk about things, and especially Greek people.
The interaction.
Yes.
The personal interaction.
Especially Greek people.
So, as a second generation American-born Greek, do you see that's going to be a future for the Greek American community?
I do. I'm also a very positive person, but I do. I see from I think that every once in a while it might skip a generation or a half of a generation, but it comes right back. I feel that Greek people love to identify as Greek people. I think that Greek people came to America and they worked very hard and they did things very differently than what is happening now with migrants. And I think that Greek people kept their Greek culture, traditions, and kept them in their houses and gave them to their children. I don't think that Greek women stop Greek cooking when they come to America, stop listening to Greek music, stop speaking Greek. You know, a lot of cultures do that. Once they come to America, they, you know, it's kind of like they forgot where they came from. But Greek people carry it.
Yeah, according to the American census, for the first time, the American-born Greeks are numerically more than the Greek-born. So we have a transition of generations. Those who are born here have they are Americans of Greek background.
Yes.
So
do they keep it?
So that's why, how you see it from your own experience with your own children and their friends, and it's good that you have this optimistic view of this. So some of the values that are characteristically Greek, which ones are the ones that you think we should transmit to the next generations?
Φιλότιμο. I think that Greek people, first of all, they're generous. They're
which is something you said before. You cannot translate that. Right?
What is it? What's φιλότιμο?
You cannot translate it.
What is it?
Yeah, it's exactly what you said.
We would have to say a few words to describe it. We couldn't say it in a word. But that's something that even so. You know how sometimes you meet somebody and you know that you like them, or like they give you okay, when you're in completely out of a Greek neighborhood and you're in like a full place, can't you see like who you know is Greek? And it's not something, it's not a style, it's not a, you know when people are Greek. Like I know when people are Greek.
From the behavior?
yeah, I can look at people and I could say, oh, he's probably Greek, or she's probably Greek, or she's definitely Greek, you know, from far away without, and a lot of times I'm right. You know, I go to Florida often, and you know, there's, so my brother-in-law and my sister, they're not Greek at all. They're not Greek at all, nothing. So to them, I'm like a country. So to them, they ask me all these questions about Greece all the time. They've never, you know. So we were in a restaurant and I said, so my brother-in-law does real estate and he sees somebody, they wave, and I say to my brother-in-law, he's Greek, right? And he says, no, I don't think so. And I said, no, he's Greek. He's like, how do you know? You know him? I'm like, no, I could just tell that he's Greek. So anyway, he gets up, whatever, they start talking, and he goes, it's my sister-in-law. She's Greek. She said that you're Greek. He goes, yeah, I am. He goes, you're Greek, and your last name is Mark? And he goes, yeah, it was Markopoulos. He goes, oh, wow. But yeah, I can tell when somebody's Greek.
So, Philotimo, yeah, this is very, very interesting. Do you think that Greek Americans handle the situation with the race issues or the political issues in America in a good way? Because there was a lot of debates about that.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm because I grew up all over America, and because I'm American and I was American, race was never something. I mean, I remember at one point in Nevada, I went to a school and there were only 7 white people in this school. I never felt like, oh, I can't. You know, that wasn't something when I was growing up. And it definitely wasn't something in New York until now. Now I think it's becoming something. Definitely not racist, like you didn't look at someone and say, oh, he's black, he's brown, you didn't do that. That wasn't a thing, not here, and now it is. I think that it is now, and that's bad because we're going backwards.
Is a lot of debate about making easier for Greek Americans to vote. All of us have the right to vote, but somehow it's difficult because in order to vote, you have to go to Greece, and now it's a debate that we should be able to vote also while we live here. Do you think it's a good idea about the vote? Are you gonna, if you had a chance, you're going to vote for Greece?
I wouldn't. I don't think that that's my. I don't think that that's my right. I don't think that anybody should vote in a country unless they live there. Just like I don't think that anybody that doesn't have the consequences of votes should be able to vote. So I think that not only for Greece, I think that for America, I think that for New Guinea. I think that the people that vote in a community should be the people that are going to reap the benefits but face the consequences. I don't think that people here should be voting on what happens there, just like the opposite. I mean, unless they're here temporarily. Like, I think that the diplomats that are living here temporarily, that yes, they should be able to vote, but I don't think somebody that doesn't have plans to return in the near future should be voting in Greece. I don't think that's right.
In order to conclude this part of the interview, what is your thoughts and your greetings for the American-born generations in continuing?
I think that they should try their best to be a part of it. and to keep it going, because the multicultural effects of every community is a great thing, but being Greek is something that you're born with it, and it's your responsibility to keep it and to pass it and to live it and to show it. Just, a lot of times, especially in, when my kids are in school here in Astoria, lately, when they were here in Astoria, when they pass out like the city paper from the superintendent or something, it's never in Greek anymore. It's in so many different languages. There's a few reasons for this. One of the reasons is the Greek people didn't try, they assimilated. They didn't try to keep the language as the only thing they were going to speak, which a lot of other cultures do. They come to America and they want to be in America, but they want to live in America the way that they were living in their country. Then why did they come to America, is my view on that. Because you have to assimilate, because you're in a different country. It's upsetting, though, that if, say I had a child and my mother was here from Greece watching my child, and a paper came home from school, my mother wouldn't speak English. Say, my mother does, of course, but many grandparents don't. That's, for them to be able to read it in their own language when they have to is, fun. They should all learn English, of course, in my view, but there's no Greek on those anymore. There's so many other languages. That's scary, and that means that we haven't continued it strong enough.
And do you recommend that visiting Greece might help?
Absolutely. As often. I know so many parents that their family's in Greece and they send their children from maybe 2 days before school lets out until 2 days before school starts, and I think that's amazing. That is so great that they're able to do that, because growing up in Greece is very different than growing up in New York City, and that's something that all children will benefit from. Playing outside and doing things that aren't done here.
From what we know, or what we realize, this is the 10-year anniversary since you succeeded into TELLY'S Taverna. Tell us something about that.
So, although I've been here for 32 years, my mother and Telly opened this restaurant. Through the years, I was serving, I was hosting, I was doing a lot of things, but my main job is I was a waitress. And because I was a waitress, it wasn't known to most customers that I was Nana's daughter. And that was sometimes intentional, sometimes not, because, work was work. I never came to work late. I never left early. I never got any special treatment because, if anything, I could say that I got the opposite most of the time. If a difficult customer would come in, I was always the one that had to take them, and which was a good thing, because in the end they were the best ones. We didn't have majority of Greek customers, though. Most of our customers were not Greek at one point. We had, a very big Israeli following. There weren't a lot of fish restaurants. When my mother and Telly, when my mother came here from Texas, she went to work at another Greek restaurant that was, they had like souvlaki, it was like a taxi kind of stand, and next to it was a supermarket as well. So when she started working there, she started making fish. She brought the fish racks from Texas where they grilled the fish. The Greek restaurants that were here before her did not focus on fish. I mean, some of them had, but their focus wasn't fish. So she turned that into a fish restaurant. That it was more known as a fish restaurant. So Greek restaurants before my mother and Telly were like TAVERNS, which mean like grilled meats, and then Greek cooked food. You know, like pasticcio, moussaka, magirefta.
It was mostly the ethnic cuisine,
Yes,
serving the ethnic community.
Yes, they weren't.
The Greek Astoria.
Yeah, they weren't. The following was more, Greek, but when fish was part of the restaurants, it brought
But how you do marketing to a
Word of
non-Greek
mouth.
audience?
Then it was just word of mouth. There was no social media. There was no internet. There were, I want to say in 1992 there was Zagat's. So we got a really good review in the Zagat, and the New York Times had written an article. We didn't even know that the article was written. I remember it was like a weeknight. Now, we have to also remember that Telly's was just a small little restaurant. Like, I want to say that it
Here
fits
on 23rd?
on 23rd Avenue. It was the building next door, not the building that we're sitting in now. And I want to say that maybe 60 people fit in the restaurant. And when in the very beginning, there was a backyard, a back patio, and say if you were sitting inside and you wanted to sit outside, we would like carry the table outside. In the very beginning, it wasn't like there was a whole set of tables inside and a whole set of tables outside. No, it was nothing like that. So it was a small place, and we would open at 3 o'clock, and especially, even during the week, people were waiting outside, like to come in. And then there was we didn't even have a phone. We used the pay phones. Yeah, we used the pay phones. There wasn't even like a landline. And we didn't have a landline until very recently, 15 years.
But you had a logo?
20 years. We had a what?
A logo for TELLY'S Tavern?
No. That was very funny. So I have some pictures to show you too, how TELLY'S was. So the logo we've only had for 15 years. 15 years. No, 2007, 15 years. So before we would have, like the menu I had like a Macintosh computer, and there was a printing company under the train. That's how the first menus were made. No logo. It would just say, like in cursive writing, TELLY'S Taverna, like with that artwork of, somebody holding a big cigarette, like in the supper club, something like that. I still have one downstairs. And then I got a Macintosh computer, and with Telly we made like a printout, a menu, how it. And then looking at the menu recently, we found the menu. The prices, they've changed. I'm not saying that they haven't, but some things really haven't changed at all. Like, I want to say a porgy was $12, and now it's $22.
In the span of 3 decades.
Yeah, which isn't a big difference, because the cost has went up 10 times.
Not only the cost of the material, but also of labor
Everything.
and other things.
Everything, rent, I have 2 separate landlords, and I'm the storefront, so I also pay the real estate tax for both of these buildings. And the difference is tremendous, tremendous. It's like 30 times more than what it was, 30 years ago. Prices have changed, menus have changed. The past 10 years, we've added, so, was it Labor Day? I think Labor Day of 2012 is when I bought TELLY'S. So 10 years and 10 years and a few months. And the menu, whatever we had then, we still have, except for 2 things. But we've added. So now we've added cooked food, because a lot of people that come to Astoria now, they ask for it. Like Greek food has become, in the past 15, 20 years, more common. People didn't really know the difference outside of Astoria. People that don't know Greek people would confuse Greek food with Moroccan food, Lebanese, Turkish, other ethnic. Now there's Greek restaurants everywhere. We were one of very few Greek restaurants when they opened. I mean, in Astoria there were a lot of Greek restaurants, but.
And the decision to start to buy TELLY'S was because...
A little bit of both. There were many reasons. So, Telly passed away in 2006. So, Telly and I were very, very, very close. And when he got sick, I was in Greece. And I was planning on staying in Greece. And he called me to tell me he was sick and that I had to come back to help my mother. Because being a woman, I mean, even though Telly was, Telly, and he was my mother's partner at work and stuff like that, and his focus was cooking. And then my mother did all of the other things that had to do, I mean, his focus was cooking and paying bills, say. My mother's focus was, when they started, they didn't have a big staff. She was serving tables, like she was at the restaurant before this. So when he called me to say he was sick, that I had to come back, this job is 7 days a week, and it's all day. It's not something, that you go to work and then you leave work and work is over. So she was doing everything by herself, going to the markets every night, going to the fish market, going to the vegetable market. Business was very different then. Everything. And then she was tired, and it showed that she was tired. So I came back, and of course I started working again, and we started making like changes. So in 2007, I said to her, we have to put a computer. She's like, no way, we're not doing that and that, no way. We had this register, this cash register that must have weighed like 400 pounds.
I still have it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Anyway, and so she didn't want to put in the computer, but my whole thing was, I was a server. I was working for my mother, and intentionally, of course, I wouldn't not charge for something, but when you're busy and you're running around and you need a Coca-Cola, you grab the Coca-Cola, you serve it, and you're on to the next thing. And a lot of times you forget it. You forget to put it on the check. So things like that were happening. Finally, she agreed, and it changed so many things. The computer system, Now, you know, there's still people that worked here before we had the computers. They're still working here, but none of them could work without a computer now in here.
Astoria has changed since the mid-80s, when there's no more immigration from Greece to Astoria or to New York. Also, the Greeks moved out. How that affected your clientele and your decisions about TELLY'S Taverna?
So it's a very strange. No. It's a very strange thing. So they moved, they came, they moved. I feel it because it's so many years. So I remember when everybody walking down the street was speaking Greek, because I didn't speak Greek when I first came here, so it was so much more noticeable. And then through the years, I feel like they left, but then they came back, and then for a little while new Greek families came. So the changes were noticeable every 4 or 5 years. And right now I feel like, yes, they moved out, but they're coming back to eat. They're coming back to shop. They're coming back to do things in Astoria. I see, so we moved to Whitestone in about 4 years ago. And even my daughter that lives in Whitestone, she still does everything in Astoria. So, and she's 23 years old. So, you know, they come back to Astoria. And the Greek people gather in Astoria, whether it's to go to coffee, shopping, eating, you know, going out, whatever they're going to do, they gather back in Astoria. And I hope that this stays this way. I just find that it might be a little bit difficult if we don't intentionally make it stay this way.
The recent years we have the emergence of Greek-American chefs, and as you said, there is a change in the recognition of Greek food as Greek food, and the Mediterranean diet is so popular, etc.
Yeah.
So when it comes to TELLY'S Taverna, how you make decisions to move more out of the ethnic palette, more out of the ethnic concentration about food, and become something else, or keeping the ethnic food in some
I'm going to tell you, I have this conversation so often. So I've been, you know, on a couple of cooking shows and done other things that a lot of Greek chefs have done with cooking. This is my main goal, even, you know, at our other location, is to keep everything simple and Greek. There's so much room, there's so much Greek fusion and Greek gourmet, even on the Greek cooking shows. We've taken Greek food and we've tried to make it something different, which is great sometimes, but TELLY'S isn't like that. TELLY'S is just fresh, simply cooked Greek food, Greek recipes. There's no, there's spices and things that Greek people don't use. We don't use them. Now, there's a lot of new things that come out, like style, like you know, today leather pants are in style, and you know, I don't think that food is like that. It's different when you're cooking at home, when you like something different, but Greek food is simple, healthy, you know, cooked food.
Because you've been to other areas of the United States, do you see differences in the cuisine, how you cook and eat, let's say in Houston, and how you cook and eat
very
in New
different.
York?
We've had this conversation about Florida too, that not only Greek food, but up until 6 or 7 years ago, I would go out to eat, not Greek food, any kind of food in Florida, and be like, how are people eating? Like, how are they getting away with serving this? Now you go, and things have changed drastically. A lot of maybe New Yorkers have gone. I mean, I'm not only saying New Yorkers, but a lot of people and people's expectations are very different now than they were years ago. And I see that here, I see that everywhere. The quality and the way food and restaurants are very different than they were even in recent years. The cost of goods have tripled, sometimes quadrupled. All restaurant owners had to make a choice. And in my opinion, many of them made the wrong choice. So you either have to raise your prices a little bit, make your portions smaller, or settle for a lesser quality. We raised our prices on a few things. We did not make our portions smaller, and we definitely did not lower our quality. There's a lot of things that we can't find. There were 2 weeks that we didn't have chicken. And the reason why is because chicken was available, the lesser quality, but we preferred to just not have chicken because I wasn't going to serve my customers a lesser quality. And that's a decision that all restaurant owners had to make, and unfortunately many of them, in my opinion, made the wrong decision.
Very interesting. So there are different, let's say, high cuisines, the French cuisine or the Italian cuisine, etc. Where the Greek cuisine stands in comparison to those other cuisines, and also you said that now Greek restaurants, Greek food is recognizable, they can stand by itself, and also how the clientele are more sophisticated.
Yes.
They have a better palate
Yes.
about taste. Health issues are involved. So, to what degree, according to your opinion, the Greek cuisine and business women like you, people in the Greek food industry, contributed to the change of the American taste and habits of eating?
So I believe in general, because the supply and demand, I believe in general people are eating better now than they were, 15 years ago. In general, whether it's they're eating less bread, they're eating less pasta. Health-wise, I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but here in New York, it's definitely like that. Greek food is very simple, very healthy. There's no processing. So there's nothing more healthy than getting a fresh fish, grilling it, a little bit of olive oil and lemon. Like, what could be more healthy than that? Or vegetables, like what we were eating the other night. Fresh vegetables that don't have, they're not processed, they're not canned, they're not frozen. There's nothing more healthy than that. And I think that anybody health conscious knows about Greek food like that.
Also, the recent years, we have seen an increase, probably, maybe not, of Greek products coming from Greece, reaching New York, and distribution, not only in the Greek American supermarket, but also in the American supermarkets.
We were in Pennsylvania, I want to say. We went to a Target, and the lemon in Target were from Greece. That was great. I was like, product of Greece? Wow. We bring everything from Greece. This paper, our napkins, the bottles, not everything, but we bring fish from Greece. We bring wet naps. These are all printed in Greece and made in Greece, and they're shipped here. Our bags, our paper bags, our plastic bags, they're all made in Greece.
Ingredients, supplies?
fish, olive oil, cheese, olives, pepperoncini, beans, yigadis, revithia, macaronia.
So
What
because there is some kind of improvement from Greece in that particular
Yeah.
direction of being able to export better
Yes.
now than before is one
Yes.
thing, and also your decision
Help.
to have so many Greek things, raw material or other stuff is also because you want to support the
Yes.
Greek, or you can find the same products elsewhere.
Oh, I could definitely. Before I started ordering my bags from Greece, my plastic bags, I used to bring them from China. And I stopped right when I realized that I'm able to bring them from Greece. I want to tell you that the Greek ones are a little bit more expensive, but they're a lot better quality. Like, the difference is tremendous.
But it is your ethnic background that you feel Greek and you do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. And even within Greece when I go, I kind of get I don't know. I don't know. A little bit upset. I was in a tourist shop in an island this last summer, and I would love to show it to you, but there was a little boat there that I had gotten from. I have that same boat in Florida that I had gotten in Florida. And I had a conversation with the store owner, and I said, there are so many things that could be made in Greece, that somebody wants to buy a souvenir from Greece. Why? So what they do is that they're made in China, and they write, but why?
Interesting. But also, I want to stay a little bit to the formal institutions of Greece and in here. What you do is very noble, I think, to your decision to buy products related to Greece, either exporting here or otherwise, use Greek Americans for supplies, etc. Although you have other options also.
Sure. These tables are from Greece.
So I want to know if the Chamber of Commerce in Greece or the Greek state recognizes the efforts of the Greek American business women and business people towards that,
think so.
and also if the Greek American Chamber of Commerce realizes what you do, or also I think there is a person here, a position in the embassy and in the consulate of someone who is responsible for the trading business.
Is there? I don't have somebody. I don't know somebody that is.
Yes, people getting paid. It is an official position.
I know nobody that is.
Εμπορικός ακόλουθος.
So I don't know them. And
So
I don't
neither
order.
Greece or Greek American institutions realize the efforts.
I don't think so. Maybe that's not their fault. Maybe it's mine. I don't know. But I don't know. You know what, though? If there is a position like that, maybe, in my opinion, they should go to the Greek places and make those connections. I've been to the expo in Greece. I went there a few years ago. Even there wasn't somebody, and I went there supposedly invited. Even there's not somebody that would do that connection. Like, I had B&B meetings, like for olives, but there's nobody even there to say, this is from America, and please let us know if there's,
I saw Greek politicians eating here and promising things. So there is some kind of connection, but there is no official policy. How do you explain that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that that's what it's about, though. How do I say that? I don't think that, I think that it should be a community where everybody's connected to help each other, because that would be great. It would be great, and it would make us so much more able. So if I had somebody that that made it easier for me to import things from Greece, I would probably be able to import everything if I was able to, but it's hard. You know, I order my papers, my napkins, my bags, my, wet naps, all from one person that orders them for Greece from me and brings them here. But if it was more organized, I would have these connections. I would know 3 places that make the napkins. I would know 5 places that make the, that have the olive oil, or things like that.
Definitely must be some work.
There needs to be work done.
To that direction.
Let's hope that everybody would be interested, though.
Now, we hope that we are out of the pandemic and the lockdown. How you experience the pandemic? Because the food industry was among maybe
very rough.
Maybe the most hurt one.
Very rough times. So, like I said before, I opened another restaurant in 2019.
Where?
In Westchester, in Port Chester, in the town of Port Chester. Beautiful restaurant, brand new. I opened in June of 2019. Not less than a year open, the pandemic hit. And unfortunately, that area was an orange zone throughout the whole restrictions. So it was hard enough for me to find employees there, hard enough. It was doing so well. There were, it's a bigger place as well. So there were Saturday nights where it was even busier there as a new restaurant than it was here, and I've been here for 30 years, so it was a very big deal. So the pandemic hit very rough, and right when we felt like we got out of it, because we have a big theater up there right by us, and the theater reopened, so right away it was very, very busy. And then Hurricane Ida came September 1st and flooded my whole restaurant with 9.5 feet of water. So now we're rebuilding up there too. Here in Astoria, I have great neighbors. So when we were restricted inside, I was able to take all of these tables out on the sidewalk, all the way up and around the block. And my neighbors were encouraging it. They're both Greek, and they're both so happy when we're open and it's busy, and they feel like things were getting back to normal. But the weather in New York isn't for eating outside too. So I think that, like I said before, we've been here for 30 years. There's so many restaurants that would never be able to reopen. And I know so many restaurants that the only reason why they're still open today is because there's no way for the landlords to take them out yet. It's a struggle, for sure.
You are a businesswoman, a female in that business, which is traditionally was a male occupation. And at the same time, you have a family, you have children. What are some of the challenges being a businesswoman and a mother?
So, it's funny, I just had this conversation. So when I was working as a waitress and I had my daughter, it was just me and my daughter alone. And, you know, some nights, you know, I had a babysitter. So some nights, like on a Monday night in the snow, in the winter, my babysitter made more than what I was making. So that was very hard. But what can you do? You can not pick and choose which days you work. So, you know, every Wednesday I would have off on Wednesday nights, and my daughter had ballet on that night. So I would schedule what days I work according to, you know, if she had ballet. Saturday morning, a lot of times we would have parties here, but I didn't want to work on Saturday morning because it was the only morning that we did something, say. As long as I was waitressing, no matter what, none of the other waitresses that were working here had small children, only me. So no matter what, when I was waitressing, like President's Week, when there was no school, I was on vacation. I never worked when there was no school. I would come back Friday night, but Monday through Friday, I would take vacation. In time, just being on vacation, those times were times, you know, full of spending time. They weren't, you know, like every day. And then, you know, my daughter's older now. My son is 11, and he plays a lot of sports. And I say, if I were still waitressing, I wouldn't be able to be a part of this because I don't miss a practice and I don't miss a game. I always sign him up for the ones that the game is either Saturday morning or Sunday very early, like the games, and the practice has to be like on a Monday night. So it works like that, but it's hard, and I cook for them every day as well. So my son gets off of school at 3 o'clock. I pick him up from school, we go home, we cook, we eat together, and then I come back at 5:30. I'm usually here, you know, 11, 10 in the morning. I leave before he gets off of school, and then I come back at 5:30.
And about a businesswoman, the suppliers, the clients.
So that's another thing. I think that anybody, not only women, but anybody that has a restaurant, they have to love this business or they cannot do it. Like, it's just not possible. It's not only that it's a lot of hours and very hard work and it's 24/7, it's that it's hard work. Like, if my dishwasher doesn't show up, I wash dishes. If my grill man doesn't show up, I'm at the grill. A lot of times customers will come in and I'm at the grill and they're like, "What are you doing?" What am I doing? So I'm always very surprised at the people that own restaurants that don't know how to work every position in the restaurant. It boggles my mind, like, okay, then what do you do? What do you do? Being a woman, especially with the suppliers, so my mother was like the pioneer of women restaurant owners, because so the fish market, okay, it's not so bad. This sounds bad, but the vegetable market was a rough place to be. The meat market and the vegetable market. Well, the meat market not so bad, but the vegetable market was a very rough place to be. The first couple of times when I had to go with her, I want to say, you know, I was in my 20s when I had to go with her for some reason, I don't know, and the whole time I was there, I was like, I feel like I'm walking through a prison, like, naked. And she'd be like, they don't pay them any mind. They would, like, be hanging off the docks in the vegetable market. I was like, this is disgusting. It didn't bother me, though. I mean, I felt like it didn't make me feel like, oh, I can't do it. I would be like, afterwards, I'd be like, that's gross, but that's it, because you have to do what you have to do. It's not like you don't need vegetables because the vegetable market is like that, you know. And then I also feel when you're pricing something like equipment, say restaurant equipment, Not all the time, but sometimes that people feel like, oh, that's TELLY'S Taverna. Oh, they have money. Oh, and that's so strange that they would feel like because they knew you, that you could pay more for something. So this is the whole menu. That's it. And then aside from this, we might have 1 or 2 specials. But everything that's here is made when you order it. Nothing is pre-made. So somebody comes here and asks for a pasticcio, they have to wait 25 minutes for their pasticcio because we're baking it when you order it, which is a very big deal. Nothing is going into the refrigerator, out on a steam table, back in the refrigerator, served the next day, nothing. So soup is made every morning, and we don't have a microwave anywhere. People are like, can you put this in the microwave? Or their baby's from, oh, we don't have a microwave. You don't have a microwave. Like, what restaurant doesn't have a microwave? We don't have one. So say if you need me to warm something for you, it's warmed up in a frying pan, you know, like in a saute pan. So the soup is made in the morning. It's not held in this soup thing being hot all day. And when you order it, we put it in a saute pan and heat it for you like that. Other than that, everything is made exactly when you order it. Like if you...
The salad is the same thing.
The salads aren't pre-made in a bowl or anything like that. You order it, it's made when you order it. So a lot of times, you know, people say 25 minutes for a spanakopita. Yeah, because we're baking it when you're ordering it. It's not sitting someplace and being heated. We're baking it when you order it.
You have a very specific way of preparing food. You know, it's fresh, it is at the moment. Is that related to how people should eat or?
Absolutely. So in Greece, the only like Greek fast food is like souvlaki, right? That's the only thing that you can eat fast, or like tiropita, things like that. But eating Greek food is like a gathering. That's what, you know, you go out to eat good food, to sit, to relax. Είναι διασκέδαση. That's another word.
Yeah.
How do you say διασκέδαση in English? People come here to eat, and they come here to have a good time. Very few times do people come here to... That's why takeout wasn't a big deal for us with the pandemic. When they said restaurants are only open for takeout, before the pandemic, we had maybe 6 or 7 to-go orders a day. And then the first weekend that we were allowed to open after the pandemic, it was Mother's Day weekend. The cars to wait for the pickup orders were like all the way to the train, double parked, and we were like, we've never done this. Like at this capacity, we had never done that before.
Yeah.
But we've mastered it now. Greek food in general isn't something that you just, you know, grab and eat, you know, like that. And because it's made to order, there's some things that discourage me for doing takeout. Like you order saganaiki to go, I don't want to give you a saganaiki to go. And I don't want to give you our fried calamari to go because it's going to get soggy. So again, even everything fried here, nothing is fried in a deep fryer. Everything is fried in a frying pan, and the oil is thrown out. We don't use it twice. We don't fry different things in the oil. We have a deep fryer that is only for potatoes. So it's only fresh cut potatoes. That's the only thing that's fried in that fryer. So if you order fried zucchini or fried calamari or fried eggplant, it's being fried at the time you order it, of course, and the oil is also being thrown out right after it's ready. It's not reused.
Yeah, this is very interesting what you said about having in the country, and especially in the high pace of New York City, that life is so fast,
Yes.
to have a moment and in a different pace, relax, interact with human
Yes.
beings, so it's not just eating,
Yes.
but it is more than that. The human interaction.
It is in
also.
Greece too, yes.
And also, is this related to that you have customers since the early days of TELLY'S to now?
We have customers that have been coming here for 30 years, same people. We have a few customers that eat here every day, that only eat here. We also have customers that have moved back to Greece or back to Israel or out of the country, and they come here from the airport and they say, I haven't eaten Greek food even in Greece like this, which is so flattering. I had a table the other day that they were in Greece all summer. They're not Greek, but they said that, you know, although we loved the food in Greece, don't get me wrong, the food was fantastic in Greece, still, in our mind, your octopus is probably the best in the whole wide world. And we're like, thank you. But it's flattering. And the people that work here too. So the people that work here throughout the years, our wait staff or our bussers, were always, well, our wait staff is always Greek. Like if you're not Greek, you probably can't be a server here, only because at one point all of the clientele was Greek. So when we're sitting all together or when we're speaking to each other, we're speaking to each other in Greek. And the food is Greek, and you have to have knowledge of Greek food to be able to. So most of them work here for many
So
years.
it's not a matter of exclusion or discrimination. It is part
Absolutely
of
not.
the nature of work, the specific conditions.
Yeah, I don't. So if you go to a Mexican restaurant, say, and you know that everybody that's making your food is, you know, Mexican, and the people that are serving you are Mexican, and everything about it, don't you feel like you're really getting the most authentic? And I think that has to do with it. It's not exclusion, but I wouldn't be offended if I went to a Chinese restaurant and everybody that worked there was Chinese. That's not exclusion.
Okay.
I don't. I'm not capable of making Chinese food the way that that specific person is. Now, if somebody, if a server came to ask me for a job and they spoke Greek and they knew about Greek food, they didn't have to be Greek. I wouldn't mind, but they need to. You know, when I put an ad out in search of servers, I always write knowledge of Greek language and food is a must. Like that's part of working in at TELLY'S.
Are some of the people who work here students?
Oh yes. So every single server that's here right now working either is still a student or came here as a student. Every one of them. You know, some of them continued, some of them later had families. Through the years, though, some of them that, you know, finished school and left or other reasons, like there's doctors that were busboys here, that they came here from Greece. There's there's a pharmacist. There's, you know, they were bussers. They were, you know, this was like their job while they were going to school away from Greece. Within the last 15 years, I want to say that very few people started working here that don't work here anymore. Most people that started working here, they're either still here part-time, or they work in a different place, but say like Mother's Day or Valentine's Day on a busy day, I call them and say, hey, can you come to work? Yes. Yes, you know. And there's a lot of students, there's a lot of
I'm the husband in the TAVERNS.
yeah, a lot of marriages within here.
That's very rewarding. So in concluding this very interesting interview, I would like you to share with us if it is something that you don't like about the job, what you like most, and what is your, not advice, but your insight for you know, young American female businesswomen in our days.
So in this job, there's a lot of different positions. As a server, I always said, because I went to school, I did other things, I did other jobs simultaneously. If at any point you would have asked me, if you could do whatever you want to do, what would you do? I would say I'd be a server. So my most favorite part of being a server was anything that you started, you finished. You know, in your job, you don't finish everything that you start in the same day, correct? Like, very few jobs do you start your job and finish it all in the same day. And every day is different. So every day you get to meet new people, you get to see old friends, you have regular customers. You, as a server, most time, well, not most times, but in TELLY'S, whether you like it or not, you're with these people for more hours than you're at home. So you have a special relationship with the people that you work with, like always. And you can't hide. Your true self, no matter what, is going to come out when you're busy. So you really know the people that you're working with. And I think that that's fun. I think that people that work in a restaurant like this together probably know each other better than they know their family. Because you can't hide. Like there's no, it gets so busy and you're under so much pressure, you can't act.
And it's direct.
It's direct. And a lot of times people start to work here and you know within 2 weeks that they won't continue because they don't fit in that. And we have like a really close staff. Everybody that works here is very close. So when Con Edison came a couple of weeks ago and turned off our gas, it was the first time that we were able to have a Christmas party. So good, we made something very good come out of something terrible. So on Saturday, I took them all and we went to another Greek restaurant where there's music. So there were 26 of us, 27 of us, at another Greek restaurant, you know, at the end of January having our Christmas party. It was a lot of fun.
What is your relationship with the other owners of similar business?
I wish they were more American, some of them, and I wish they were more Greek, others. So with this specific restaurant that I was talking to you about before, wonderful lady. Her husband passed now, from what I understand, and she has a son, and she's just a wonderful person. Like, so when you love Greece and you love being Greek, you inside want all Greek people to do well. It's just nature. You feel like you're on the same team. I feel like that. Like when I hear, so I heard of a restaurant that's opening in Florida in a place, and I felt like so, wow, you know, another Greek restaurant is opening up, and I feel really good about that. I don't think that it's always like that though. I think that there's sometimes like a competition rather than I mean, business is competitive, no matter what business you are in. But say if a Greek restaurant were to open across the street, I would not be upset, because more Greek people are gonna, you know, and then it makes your, like in Little Italy. Don't you just go to Little Italy for Italian food if you're a tourist? It doesn't mean that you're, you know, you're gonna go this place and not that place or things like that. And everybody, there's enough people for everybody to do very well. As long as you're doing the right thing, you're gonna do very well.
So you have this great experience, as you said, in the different positions that exist within the food industry. So, what do you say? Let's say you talk to your
My
young
daughter?
self, to your early self, but you have now this experience. What do you tell her? What do you tell to a young female who thinks entering some kind of
I'll
business?
tell you. So this definitely isn't a job for everybody. Definitely not. You have to love the restaurant business to do this. You have to. But it's rewarding. It's rewarding in many ways. You know, depending on where you're at. There's a lot of things that have to do with the success of a restaurant business. New York, though, in general, is very, very, very competitive. There are restaurants in other areas that there's no competition around. I don't know that, I'm not sure, if I wasn't in Astoria, I'm not sure that this would have been an option. You know, it was a family business when I wasn't working here, and I knew that my mother wanted to retire and she was looking to sell the restaurant. I wasn't going to do it, and in the end, I grew up in here, and I was feeling like, okay, so now what? And then it's going to close. It would never. We're not on this big traffic street. We're not on, you know, Ditmars Boulevard. Astoria has changed so much. This is a side street. Unless you're coming here, you're really not driving around here looking for a place to go and eat. There's thousands of, you know, places to eat. If it closed, if I didn't buy it and she sold it to somebody else, three things, I think. It might not have been a restaurant. She probably wouldn't have ever gotten her money that she was selling. And it definitely wouldn't have continued as TELLY'S, unless, yeah, it wouldn't have continued as TELLY'S.
What is your vision about the future of
TELLY'S?
TELLY'S?
So, like I said before, I opened another TELLY'S in Port Chester. If it wasn't called TELLY'S, to be honest, it might have taken longer to be successful. Because, so we were a question on Jeopardy. Like, TELLY'S Taverna is known like worldwide. And the reason why I say worldwide and not nationwide or in New York or well known is because I can be like on the beach in Costa Rica and somebody will come to me and go, TELLY'S? And I'll be like, yeah, you know. So I've been in places and people are like, TELLY'S. That helped me in Port Chester. The food is what people go for afterwards. Like, you're gonna go to a place once. If it has a name and you didn't like it, you're not gonna go to any of them again. Because there's so many choices. We're not in the 80s. You know, there's restaurants everywhere. I forget now, again, I don't want to mix it up, how many thousands of restaurants are within 15 miles. So when I decided to open up in Port Chester, a customer of mine here said, hey, you know, I have this restaurant space. Maybe you want to come and look at it. When I was there, I did a search, the nearest Greek restaurant. It's very far. After we opened, we found out that there's another Greek restaurant less than a mile away, but it's on the state line, and that is Connecticut. So, but it's a different kind of Greek restaurant. Even there, it's very hard for me to find staff, and especially women that want to work in the restaurant. So, you know, at night, it's a hard job to do as a woman with a family because it's nighttime. Like, that's a big deal. You might be a nurse though working at nighttime. It's not only that, it's hard. It's hard because it's at night.
Thank you very much for the interview. DIANNA LOISELLE, the owner of TELLY'S Taverna in Astoria, 23rd Avenue.
Thank you. Thank you so much.